morning, everyone. Today is April 6th, 2026, and we have another live trading session. So we are looking at the same three pairs we always look at, being NASDAQ, US 30, and gold. As we can see with price action from overnight, if we just look at a whole scale perspective from last week, we know that on NASDAQ, we had this huge rally last week after Monday created low of the week. We rallied to buy side, and then now, again, with the start of this week, we know that London session rallied up, took out the previous high of the week, created this new high of the day here at 4 a.m., and now we are stuck in between high of the day liquidity and low of the day liquidity. If we go on a 5-minute time frame, we can also see this was 8:30 open, this bullish candle, and we now have this 8:35 candle that has basically rebalanced this candle completely. So as of right now, there's nothing here to be looking at or to take. From here, we go to US 30, which again, US 30 mirroring NAS, talk about it every single day. So same exact premise there. Last week on US 30, from an hourly perspective, again, Monday creates low of the week. After low of the week on Monday, we have a rally higher. After that rally higher, we didn't break out and take previous high of the week in London, but we are stuck in between London's higher time frame liquidity, which was the high of the day set at 4 a.m. And then we saw that we had a low of the day here at 12:45 at New York Open. We dropped down here. New York Open 8:30, swept this low of the day here, and then created this new low of the day, which is now the 8:30 candle. And so exact same premise that we're looking at on NASDAQ with us being stuck between high of the day and low of the day is the same exact premise we're looking at here on US 30. So nothing to take here right now as well. And then lastly, we have gold, which gold hasn't done what I wanted to see it do just yet. But again, whole scale perspective, 1 hour time frame, we know Monday created that low of the week. After the low of the week, we got impulses bullish. We then created this fair value gap during New York session on Tuesday. That fair value gap got tapped into here on Thursday and then started rallying back. We are now kind of stuck in between a higher time frame and a lower time frame liquidity pool. So from a higher time frame perspective, we know that we had this high set on Thursday. We know that London session rallied up, breaking this high. And now, again, if we pull this tool out real quick, we know that the hourly fair value gap here that was created last Wednesday has now been tapped into with this current price action. So we could either see this price action start to trade us lower, which would in return have our first objective be low of the day, and then so on and so forth. Or we go to a lower time frame. We know that on these lower time frames, although we did break this high and we did stab into that higher time frame liquidity that was just marked out, we also know that from the day-to-day perspective, we have the low of the day here and the high of the day, and we also have a 15-minute fair value gap here that was created with this 2:30 a.m. candle, which has now been respected ever since 7:15. So we saw 7:15 stab into it and then try and trade away from it. We then saw 8:15, and now this 8:30 candle, all stabbing into this fair value gap and then looking to potentially hold it, given that we haven't gotten any breaks to the downside. And so, again, we'll continue to sit on our hands and wait to see if an opportunity presents itself here. And then as far as sentiment goes, we know that we have 9 a.m. news here. So we have news in about 19 minutes. It's the ISM service news. We also know that Trump speaks at 12 o'clock, so price could be holding all the way up until he has his speech during around lunchtime. And then if we look at the actual sentiment for today, we know that our Dow sentiment has come out as predominantly bullish, but we do have bearish stocks scattered throughout here. So I would say this is, even though predominantly bullish, I would say this is more of a 50-50 sentiment. And then we have NASDAQ here, which about the same. Again, lots of bulls, but there are bearish stocks scattered inside of here today. So I would say around 50-50 sentiment for this as well. And then lastly, we have gold, which gold sentiment has come out as bullish. But as we can see, although the change rate is high, our percent rate is low. So we're only plus 30 or now dropping 0.19% change. And so even though we did come out bullish, this is very flat price action, which is why, again, we're just seeing this kind of consolidation profile throughout every pair right now. But like I said, we'll continue to sit on our hands. We have news in 17 minutes, so we'll see what that does to the market. And if anything else happens, I will keep you guys updated. So it's 8:52, so I'll give a little update of what's going on. NASDAQ is now basically off of our list of what we're looking at for today. As we can see, we had 8:30 open, which was here. Oh man, hold on. We had 8:30 open, which was here. After 8:30 open, we had this rally, which the rally took out short-term liquidity. So swept this little liquidity here. That was formed at 5:45, which is pre-New York. After sweeping this liquidity, we have now swung to bulls and taken out high of the day. And as we talked about in the last segment, we were predominantly bullish for today on the sentiment, even though we did have bears scattered. Again, sentiment was predominantly bullish, and so there's that delivery up to high of the day. And then we have US 30, which US 30 isn't really doing too much. We know that since NASDAQ delivered to high of the day, realistically speaking, we would expect US 30 to also deliver to high of the day. It's also about 123 points, actually about 125 points probably from where we are now. And so if we can start to see US 30 stack itself and create some form of structure and entry protocol, then we will look to take this to high of the day, given that we have news in 7 minutes. But as of right now, again, just stagnating price. And then lastly, we have our update on gold. Gold is still trying to hold this 15-minute. So as we talked about, this 15-minute fair value gap that was created at 2:30 a.m. So with the London push, that is what is currently being held in price. And so we're either waiting for one of two things. We're either going to break this 15-minute to the downside, and we're going to get a down close candle, which is going to invalidate this. And in that instance, we would then be looking at low of the day to be our objective. And our second premise would be for this to start breaking out of highs. Again, here's short-term liquidity here. So we would want to see this potentially break out of these highs and then start creating some form of bullish structure so that we could actually take these buys up to high of the day. But that's really the only things that we are predominantly looking at right now. And once again, I'll reiterate that we have this news event here, ISM service news, which is a high impact news at 9 a.m. And again, it's currently 8:54. So we'll sit on our hands, wait for this, and then I'll give you all another update. Okay, so it's now 9:04, so I'm going to just drop in for a little update here because we now have our news event that has come out. So as we can see, our news came out at 54, and we projected 54.8, so this is technically bad for the dollar, even though this is a very minimal change, still bad news for the dollar. So if we go back to our charts, we can align with what's going on. First, we can look at DXY. So we knew DXY had came out with that negative news at 9 o'clock. We had just seen this 9 o'clock candle try and run down to this low of the day. It missed this low of the day and is now retracing back into, again, this consolidation that it had been in, running to the downside. And so, again, looking at NASDAQ, we can see NASDAQ has run the high of the day, which it did that before the news event, and now it is correcting itself. We go to a higher time frame. Once again, this is price that you just don't want to be in. You don't want to be a part of. Look at the hourly time frame. None of this is high probability to be trading. So once again, while we're sitting on our hands, next we have US 30, which US 30 with that 9 o'clock news, it ran high of the day, which is what we were talking about prior to the news, given that, again, NASDAQ already ran that high. Once it ran that high of the day, we then returned back into this, again, consolidation that it's been doing for the day. And so we're not really too worried about this. And if we look at this from a 15-minute and from an hourly, we can see this is price action that we don't want to be in. Again, very low probability, not showing any significant momentum towards buy side or sell side. So we sit on our hands. We don't want to risk our mental or physical capital holding through consolidation. It's just not worth it. And then lastly, we have gold, which again, gold, I expected this low of the day to be ran on gold. So I would have expected gold after that 9 o'clock to continue to stack bullish. However, we have done what's called BPRing, which is just a balanced price range, meaning that if this candle was to create a fair value gap higher, right, we would expect for these candles to start expanding and be going bullish. However, instead of creating a fair value gap, all we've done is create this candle, which opened, created the next candle, which opened, created the next candle, and then balanced itself back out, meaning that price has now came and swept all of the liquidity, all of the candles, all of the wicks inside of here that would have been able to create a bullish fair value gap, which would have then in return taken us to this high of the day. So again, from a higher time frame being the 15 and the hour, you can see clearly here it's not doing anything as of right now. That is high probable. And so again, with this rejection that we're currently getting, we now move back into our second premise, which our second premise in the first voice message that I had recorded in this video, I basically talked about if we're going to short, we're going to look for these lows to be broken. We're going to look for this 15-minute fair value gap to be broken, and then we can try and align with shorts to low of the day. And then in terms of buy side, I told you guys we would want to look for this right here, which was internal liquidity, to be broken. Again, that did get broken. However, was there momentum when it broke? Absolutely not. There's no candles that even closed above the high. And so in return, what happens? It just sweeps liquidity and comes right back into the range that it was currently trading in. So that invalidates this. And once again, we just sit on our hands and we continue to wait. But realistically speaking, again, it's 907 just from how price is moving, given that we only have gold that we're focusing on since the other two pairs ran its objective. It is low probability today, and we probably won't get a trade, but I'll continue to let the session play out again, as I do every day. And if anything else does happen, I will update you guys. So it's now currently 9:26. So I just wanted to drop in and give a little update here. Realistically speaking, I do think that we are going to get these buys today up to high of the day. However, if we just look at how we are in liquidity, we're only 21 points away from our actual target, which is looking at being high of the day. I am looking at this here because we tried to, again, we broke this internal liquidity here, which is what I wanted to see, but we never closed above. We've now broken it and closed above with this 915 candle, as well as the fact that we do have 5-minute fair value gaps here that have been formed for bullish continuation up to that high. I just don't like the low liquidity run that we're in right now. Again, 15-minute time frame, 1 hour time frame. We're just in very low liquidity, even with the high of the day still being our objective that is intact. So I'm kind of just monitoring this to see what is actually going on. This is going to be quite a deep stop loss as well. It's a 17-point stop on gold if we were to take this, because I just wouldn't feel comfortable playing the lows of this candle with how we have been consolidating and breaking candles high and low. I would rather give it cushion to, again, if we were going to come and stop me out at this low, I know we were probably going to continue to the downside and go attack that low of the day. But this is all I'm really looking at right now. This is more so kind of study purposes because, as I've said, this is pretty low probable today. And so, I mean, just putting capital on the line isn't really worth too much, especially with it being 927. We will see if we can align with timing. If we do get into the 930 macro and then start to pull back and see some form of continuation, that, okay, that would make a lot more sense to put capital on the line. But as of right now, we're kind of just studying this and seeing what this does. Just giving an update because it's now 9:40. I would not be taking this. This is clean because the 15-minute does still support this, given that we've broken out. However, we do have a 15-minute fair value gap here that was bearish at 4:30, or what is this, the 4:45 a.m. candle. And this is an aggressive pullback coming into the close of a 5-minute candle. So I think this will probably, although I do think that high of the day still does get tapped today, this is very low probability, as well as the fact that, again, with the stop loss that I would have to play on this trade, it would be a 1 to 1.76 risk to reward, which is less than 1 to 2 R, which is what I would ideally aim for on a day-to-day basis, and low probable market conditions. So we're just going to hold off on taking this trade. So it's 9:46, so this will probably be the final update of this session, given that there's only about 14 minutes left in it. This is still a valid entry, as I've already talked about. Higher time frame structure still supports it. 15 minutes still holding. We still do have the indication of high of the day to be ran. However, as I talked about, it's 9:47. I don't think that we get a delivery inside of this price range, so I don't think by 10 a.m. we deliver up to this high of the day, as well as the fact that, again, this is just low probability. But as talked about, you could still take this with the premise of 15-minute holding. EMA's still holding as bullish. But again, I'm sitting the sidelines on this. I'd rather preserve my capital and mental and physical capital for Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, with market conditions should be much better. But we will see what this does in the next 13 minutes, and we will conclude this session right before 10 a.m. And I'll give the final closing segment of this video. Okay, so as y'all can see, this is going to conclude today's trading session. As talked about, you can see in the right here, 35 seconds left until 10 a.m. And we can clearly see what price is doing, consolidating and being stagnant. Again, I am still very highly confident that this high of the day is our objective for today, and that ultimately throughout the day, this will end up getting hit. Once again, because liquidity is holding itself, 15-minute time frame, fair value gap has been held ever since 7:30. We've stabbed into it multiple times and failed to trade lower. And then once we get to a lower time frame, after stabbing into it, we've now started to create higher highs. And these higher highs are getting broken with liquidity. Although it is a very slow, very slow day, very slow volatility getting up to this high. I do think ultimately, especially since we have Trump speaking at 12, there's another high impact news here. We should ultimately get to this high of the day. And then again, NASDAQ already did what it did, took that high of the day, invalidated the rest of the session for us. And US 30 took that high of the day, invalidated the rest of the session for us. So that's going to conclude everything for today. Again, I'll be back tomorrow for another live trading session. Hopefully markets are much better tomorrow. Hopefully we have much better liquidity as well. Just looking at the news for tomorrow, we don't have any high impact news for the dollar. So we'll basically just be relying off of market structure as well as the continuation, given that today is a bank holiday in most places and it's the Monday after Easter. We would expect for tomorrow markets to reset and hopefully give us a little bit more volatility. But yeah, I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. And once again, let me know if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, anything along the lines of that.